Syphon Filter 2 was made in 1 year. Can you make a good AAA action game in such a short amount of time?
Not sure. I'm making this up as I go.
The original Syphon Filter, or SF as no one calls it, went from concept to finished product in about 12 months, which even back in 1999 was a very short cycle. The game had a cursed development, with levels being moved around weeks before the game was shipped to stores. You play as Gabe Logan, a secret agent working for the US government, although that wasn't the original premise for the game.
The power of the Earth is basically manifested in what were called siphons, these kind of ethereal Gaia things, and there were certain members of humanity, there were certain people who could filter the siphons to turn this raw planet energy into basically what allowed humanity to survive, and you were one of the Syphon Filters.
What the fuck? Syphon Filter quickly proved a massive hit, and Sony quickly proved they wanted a sequel. Unlike the original, however, co-creators Garvin and Ham already had an entire game planned out. So although SF2, which no one calls it, also only had a year's development cycle, it was easier to make thanks to the pre-planning already having been done. Plus IDEC, now Ben Studios, had some experience under their belt, which is important since their prior game, Bubsy, well, it's fucking Bubsy. If anything, that's like negative experience. Anyway, this new Syphon Filter would be the first, but bigger and better. Also, they made this commercial that I find funny, but maybe not for the intended reason.
The taser.
Yeah, taser wouldn't be bad. It might leave a little rash mark.
That's not how the game's taser works. Let me show you. Now, I'm not a marketing guy, but I'd have to assume doesn't play well on daytime television. Fun fact about the taser, it's actually hidden in the first level, unlike the first game which has you start with it. So don't be like me, beat the entire game twice, then write an entire page in your retrospective about why SF2 doesn't have the iconic taser, when it does. How did I find this out? Well, I googled it. I should have done that first, huh? The story picks up 4 hours after the end of the first game. The US and Kazakhstan governments are blaming the nuclear explosion on an accident. Anyway, Leon has the Syphon Filter virus, but like inside her, and Logan is being chased by the agency he used to work for, called the Agency. It's a little confusing. Anyway, he escapes with the help of a rockin' montage.
Leon, do you copy?
Logan leaves with his team who are still loyal to him, but his plane, along with the Syphon Filter virus data, is shot down. Logan kicks open the plane's door, which I don't think is possible, and bails out. We parachute down, which surprised me as a kid. It's such a short segment, why add it into the game? It's awesome they did, but it feels a little unnecessary. There's no way to fail it, and it has no benefits or consequences. You can't win at it, and you just slowly fall down. I even feel a little bit silly explaining it. Why is it in the game? Anyway, it's little touches like that make me love this series. After landing, we meet up with a few of our guys, but one's got a broken leg, so we head off to find our boy Chance. Remember that name, it'll become important later. The agency, aka the guys we used to work for, are on our tail, so it's time to talk about the combat. Like the first game, Logan still has the exaggerated swagger of a super spy. Though it doesn't show through the video, the controls have been noticeably tightened up. It feels way better. Speaking of controls, they're all customizable. Want to make the aim button X? Sure thing. Otherwise, the combat has been largely unchanged. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It uses a unique system unlike any other game series, as far as I know. As enemies try to shoot you, a danger meter will fill up, top left. Once it reaches full, their shots will start landing. Likewise, your own target meter works in reverse. Once it's full, your own shots will begin hitting their marks. You cannot get hit unless the danger meter is full, and likewise, you cannot hit the enemy unless the target meter is full. Running, crouching, dodging, and of course taking cover will all influence these meters. So it's an action game, but it's a bit tactical too. You also have 2 life bars, represented first by your armor, which can be replaced by finding flak jackets in crates or by headshotting enemies wearing them. But if you go for chest shots, you'll destroy said armor, meaning you can't pick it up. which is just again an awesome attention to detail. Once that's gone, you have your health bar, though you can only take 2 or 3 shots before you're dead. Richard Hamm, one of the co-creators I keep bringing up, pushed really hard for even more realism. He wanted the game to be more realistic, but ran into issues of it, well, not being fun. Which, yeah, I can see it. If a game leans too much into realism, unless it's a simulator, it usually just doesn't work out. Something that often annoys me is when people complain about realism or fantasy in media, as if it's a binary. Like it needs to be one or the other. But I strongly feel that's misunderstanding fiction. Syphon Filter is a ridiculous action movie turned video game, but it has a logic to it must follow. Here's a simple thought experiment. What'd break your immersion more in a Syphon Filter game? Logan jumping off a mountain to avoid being hit by a helicopter's missile, or a dragon suddenly appearing? Hint, one of these happened. The first level ends with Logan jumping off a mountain and surviving a rock slide to avoid being caught in an explosion. It's ridiculous, sure, but it's in line with Syphon Filter's established rules. It's not unbelievable that Logan, Super Spy, could do this in his universe. Just because a piece of fiction has fantastical elements to it doesn't mean it has no consistency or rules it must follow. The best fiction strictly follows its own rules. I bring this point up because it's important to set up your own rules when creating a story. Syphon Filter 2 does more than the first, but it doesn't jump the shark. It jumps the missile. Speaking of helicopters, there's one chasing Logan around the mountain and is piloted by Archer, an ex-coworker of Logan. Logan calls him a brown noser, which also addresses an issue I had with the first game. Little details like this flesh out the world. Not much, it's not like the characters have real growth or anything, but hey, backstories for minor characters ain't too bad for an action game released in 2000. Anyway, the combat, it's good. The shotgun has a satisfying boom sound effect, and can actually hit guys more than 6 inches from you. The enemies all have simple but effective AI that has them going for headshots, using grenades, and using cover. Lastly, the developers placed enemies in interesting locations, so you never know where they'll come from or what weapons they'll use. It ties into the idea that these are the best the US military has to offer. These are guys who got pretty much the same training as Logan. We climb up and make contact with Teresa. She's part of our team and works as an information specialist. She's also a brand new character not featured in the first game, and thanks to her, we tap into the agency's radio. They're planning to cover the mountain in deadly gas in 2 hours, which adds urgency to the situation. As we make our way down the mountain, there's a few instances where you'll fight alongside allies. Like I said in my prior video, games back then didn't really do this that often. Halo was an exception, and even that wouldn't be for another year. Archer finds us in his helicopter, which gives me flashbacks to the first game.
Sorry, Logan. If it were up to me, I'd let you live. Agency orders.
Sure you would.
Cut to Leon, who's been taken captive by the agency and held in an airbase in Colorado not far from Logan's position. She pretends to be unconscious, which probably isn't going to fool anyone in real life, and snaps a doctor's neck. To escape, we have to endure a stealth level. I didn't like these in the first game, and I don't like them now. I won't harp on it too much, but there's a reason developers stopped putting them in their games. We eavesdrop on these guys who have no peripheral vision, then find Fagan, the CEO of Farcom and creator of the Syphon Filter virus. He worked with Black Baton in the previous game and is now infected with the virus. Ironically, he's also killed by it, as the agency pulls the life support off him.
Fine, if you insist. I'll call the New York labs and see if they're ready for us.
I'll go with you.
They're using his plasma as well as Leon's to sell to a rogue Chinese general. We find our gear and adrenaline shot to perk us up and contact Teresa. We also find out that the agency has a lab in New York. I think that's called foreshadowing. Okay, so here's the plan. Grab a chopper, pick up Gabe, look cool doing it. Speaking of cool, look at this cute little video monitor. It changes pictures to simulate video. I mean, the PlayStation wasn't powerful, so it's neat seeing the tricks devs came up with. Now this next part is nonsense. A military police officer finds us, but is sympathetic. Although, he doesn't know what's going on or what these agency guys are up to.
You're right, I don't know who they are, but I know they're not from FEMA. Over here. I overheard 2 of them. They're planning to kill you. You can get out here.
Thanks.
he still lets us go. His assistance is opening a window that wasn't even locked. Why? Why include him? The cutscene just serves no point. It's awkward. Why would he trust us over the agency? He doesn't know either of us, just that the agency is part of the US government. And if you remove him, nothing changes. Anyway, I know I'm being nitpicky, but it's just something I noticed. Cut back to Logan, who jumped over a missile into a rock slide without so much as a scratch. Let's see Snake do that. The most impressive thing that guy's done is beat up the mentally ill. Gabe hands his only weapon over to his buddy while he goes up into the tunnel ahead. There's some supplies in a truck, while our bro will distract the enemies. I also love how the headlights cause a little halo effect on the screen. Again, little touches. Speaking of, I like how you can clearly read the interstate sign as well. The Syphon Filter games have always been some of the best looking PlayStation games. Richard Hamm, the co-creator mentioned earlier in this video, even credits Bubsy's technical showcase as a big reason why Sony greenlit Syphon Filter in the first place. For as poorly as it was reviewed, Bubsy was still technically impressive. It was one of the few PlayStation games to run at 480i, the highest resolution possible for the system. There's even plenty of PS2 games that don't hit that resolution. Worth mentioning, Mr. Hamm never worked on Bubsy. He was brought on for Syphon Filter along with John Garvin, who's the main writer. Generally speaking, Hamm does the game design while Garvin writes. The core IDIC team stayed relatively the same for Syphon Filter 1, 2, and 3, with Hamm leaving after Syphon Filter 3 to work on The Sims 2 for PS2 and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Meanwhile, Garvin would stay with IDIC, eventually leaving after the release of Days Gone. Although he's never explicitly stated it, I get the sense he was a bit tired working with Sony after they pulled the pre-production plug for a Days Gone sequel. I actually recently finished Days Gone, and as much of a fanboy as I am, I can see where they're coming from. While Days Gone was a slight financial success, Ben Studios have always been the ugly duckling of first-party Sony developers. They just can't compete with Naughty Dog, Guerrilla Games, or Insomniac. I've never worked in game development, but I'd have to assume it's a catch-22. They can't compete because they don't have the funding, but they don't have the funding because they can't compete. Sony does seem willing to take risks, but Days Gone was IDIC's chance, and it didn't really hit the mark, so I get it. You can't just burn money. People love to hate suits, but you need them. Creatives having full control gives you games like Star Citizen. With that said, however, it seems like they're working on a new big-budget game, so I'm very curious and hopeful I'm proven wrong. Though the Ben Studios now is vastly different from the one that made Syphon Filter, and even Days Gone. John Garvin's working on a new game with a brand new studio, and Richard Hamm is making YouTube videos about board games. And there's a third guy I should mention, Jeff Ross. He's the designer for Syphon Filter and the director of Days Gone. Right now, it seems like he's taking a break from games. None of the management is with Ben Studios or Sony today. But anyway, Syphon Filter 2, I went on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's good you have some background information. Getting back into the game, we have a flamethrower. SF2 loves to bounce around between stealth level and burning guys alive via an action segment. An APC up ahead is blocking our path, so our buddy Chance, remember him, he acts as a distraction again, pretending to surrender while we sneak by to a nearby maintenance room and kill the lights. It's a bit silly how we have night vision, but the agency guys don't, nor does the APC. These are literally the most highly trained and well-funded soldiers on the planet, and they can't see in the dark? Can you even buy an American APC that doesn't have night vision? I doubt it. As much as I love Syphon Filter, it's not exactly the most well-written series. Funny enough, John Garvin has admitted as much in interviews, stating that a lot of the writing is just an excuse to get the player in a cool location, which at the time is actually good video game writing. It's just got some plot holes to nitpick, which I shall. Also, the night vision effects in this series is just a huge blast of nostalgia for me. The look is iconic. Past the APC is a bridge that's rigged to blow. We gotta deactivate the bombs without getting seen. It's oddly kinda like a platformer, and although it's mandatory stealth, I don't mind it. It's pretty fun. The coolest part is that you can score a double headshot with the silent sniper, which feels awesome. Past the bridge, and we find some of our guys being beaten by the agency's goons. But we just gotta wait for the perfect time for another perfect double headshot.
What the hell?
Next up doesn't seem like much, but it's amazing for a PSX game.
Get him!
a truck full of guys pulls up and they spawn behind it. Now, having a truck move like that in a PlayStation game, I think it's really impressive. As we're crossing the bridge, Archer blows it up with his helicopter in a hilarious cutscene that sends us all flying.
I left Chance back in the first tunnel. I want you to get him and get off this mountain.
Will do.
Radio me when you get to a safe place. I'll try to
Look out!
Back at the airbase, the bad guys are killing their subordinates to remind you that they're bad. There should be a new, stronger word for killing. Something like bad and wrong. Leave a comment if you think of anything. Leon learns that they're going to carpet bomb the mountains Logan's on with gas, killing everyone. So we still have that plan to hijack a helicopter and pick him up. Before that though, we gotta sabotage the plane to buy him some time. Like the moving truck in the prior level, there's an awesome section here where you need to dangle off the side of a moving truck as it passes by guards. It's such a cool little section, it really reminds me of some of the early parts of Metal Gear Solid. We run into another coworker, and Leon ain't taking no shit.
Hello, Holman. Standard silence HK5. Good. Remember me?
Leon, you escaped. Thank God.
Don't even try. I know what you're planning.
No, I was trying to stall them, trying to find a way to get you off the base without...
You just loaded 2 missiles with sarin gas payloads into an F-22 meant for the survivors of a plane crash.
No, that's not true.
You're a liar, Holman. And not a very good one. Another agency course you failed in training? You want to beg for your life? You tell me where Morgan is taking that plasma.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm dying, Holman. Syphon Filter is killing me and I am running out of patience. Where are they taking Fagan's plasma? And where were they planning to take mine?
I can't help you. I don't know where they're taking the plasma. All I know is I was assigned to Morgan. He said we were picking up biomaterials for transport.
Transport to where?
I don't know. I only know that our next assignment was to pick up some discs from the Farcom Exposition Center in New York. They don't tell me anything. I was just following orders.
Yeah? Well, we were all just following orders.
Just make it quick.
You have no idea what you're involved in. Maybe you'll learn if you live long enough. I'd suggest not going into work tomorrow. Your boss might not be as forgiving as I am.
Building on the moving truck sections, next we gotta avoid a spotlight, rig a truck to go into reverse, smashing into a hangar, and distracting the guards. It's such a cool moment, and more reminiscent of something you'd see in a modern game, not one made in 2000. Falcon, one of the agency's top brass, is about to board a helicopter, but we tase his ass and take it for ourselves. The agency has new management since Markinson died in the first game, and like the old boss, the new one wants to sell the Syphon Filter data to a rogue Chinese general. Gabe and his team are standing in the way of that, of course, and it's unlikely neither the US nor Chinese governments even know about this. We fly off as we cut back to Gabe, who's somehow, but unsurprisingly, alive. Not just that, but he's on the back of a flaming train. Archer's still on our trail, but that's okay, because it's time for the best type of level, a train level. Whether it's Uncharted 2, Splinter Cell 2, or Syphon Filter 2, train levels are always my favorite. Gabe's plan is to grab the Syphon Filter data and use it to bargain with the agency for the Syphon Filter vaccine to save Leon. As you run forward, Gabe will automatically jump, but you gotta watch out for guys with flak jackets.
No! Idiot!
The train tracks are coming to an end, but Leon's here to save the day. In a bit of clever writing, Archer blows up an upcoming bridge, but doesn't stick around to shoot down Leon because he doesn't know she's there, and he rushes to the crash site to grab the Syphon Filter data. To be honest, I was expecting a plot hole, but there isn't one. Nice job, SF2. Logan and Leon race to the crash site, and this level is gorgeous. It's like fighting in hell. The inferno in the background, the burnt plane parts and trees, the soundtrack, like most of Syphon Filter's music, is also fantastic. And the guys going full aggro, well, all that just makes this one of the most memorable levels in the game. It's really tough, and you'll need to play smart. All the enemies have flak jackets, use grenades or assault rifles, and they aren't afraid to go for headshots. There's I don't know how to say it, there's like an air of desperation to the agency soldiers. Their tactics are hyper aggressive, and you can even hear Archer calling out your location to them over the radio.
Red team, he's south of your position. Move in now.
Syphon Filter isn't a series where the characters really have arcs or growth, but the 2D nature of them is still entertaining. Saturday morning cartoon villains they're fun to hate, you know? And that's really what Archer provides. The guy's a prick through and through, which makes shooting his ass as he tries to escape with the data all the more satisfying. We lose contact with Chance and the rest of our guys on the mountain, so assumed KIA at the moment. Meanwhile, the agency has listed us as terrorists, blaming us for the plane being shot down, as well as the subway bombing in the first game. While we have the SF data, it's encrypted. Both us and the agency believe Fagan, the Farmcom CEO, hid it in the convention center, which is a revisit from the first game. By the way, remember when games came on multiple discs? Well, SF2 is one of them. Also like the first game, Gabe changes clothes depending on the level, which I still love. Speaking of the last game, the music is as good, if not better. So many bangers, as the kids say. While this is a stealth level, it's not mandatory. You can shoot your way out if spotted. Well, the agency guys you can kill, but not the military MPs, which are also scattered around. You can deal with them non-lethally with a tranquilizer or taser. It's also not a complete retread of the first game, even though it's recycled. The level's been altered a bit with the help of the government boxes placed everywhere. Also, it's at night. It's nostalgic without being repetitive. Leon finds out they're planning on blowing up the expo center. Why? I don't know, it's cool, I guess. This level's cool figuratively and literally. Look at these vents. Why? They're huge. The explosives are placed in the China exhibit along with Morgan. I mean, he's there. He's not placed there. Like, he's not an exhibit, if that makes sense. He's there.
You're cut off, Morgan. It's just you and me.
Give yourself up, Logan. Stevens wants you to come in. He wants to sit down and discuss things with you and Leon Zing.
I know what Stevens wants. You had her and you lost her. You always were second-rate, Morgan.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyway, who's Morgan? Well, he's the second in command to the agency, whom Logan calls second-rate. Get it? Because he's second in command, second-rate, never mind. Which means boss battle. Syphon Filter has never had great boss battles, and this one is really no exception. He has a grenade launcher, and you're supposed to run around the room, avoiding his shots, but that'll get you killed like 9 out of 10 times. What you really should do is just spam headshots as soon as you load in, which ends the boss fight in under a second. Great for speedrunning, but maybe a bit anticlimactic. We grab the encryption discs and bounce. Helping us is a new character, Lawrence Mujari. He has a safe house we're using, and like Teresa, he's a new character, but he'll play a big role in the series. So while we have the data disks, they're not all here. Anyway, Leon has a contact who might know more, a Russian general she worked alongside with in Afghanistan. So it's off to Moscow. The general's a little out of place at this nightclub, but a man's gotta dance. An attempt is made on his life by none other than Mara Aramov. She survived getting shot in the head, twice, and now she's back for more. Leon saves the general just as explosions begin tearing this place apart. The club's also infested with Russian mercenaries, which is fine by me as we swap to Leon. These guys will pop out from cover, which I don't think was a mechanic in the first game. I don't remember it anyway. And although the first game did have destructible items in the levels, I felt they were rarely present. Not here though. Glass bottles and windows shatter in these intense firefights. It doesn't seem like much until you're actually playing the game. It adds a lot of excitement. These are tense battles, since it doesn't take much to kill or be killed. And I want to give props because Syphon Filter is a series that can do both long and short range combat really well. The cops arrive, so the front door is a no-go.
Dude, Russian militia's shown up. They're blocking my way out, and I'm going to lose Gregorov if I don't get outside. I can't open fire on these guys, they're just cops doing their job. I need backup here.
We enter deeper into the club and escape via a window. Mara tries to kidnap the general, but he makes a run for it. So now we have this complicated situation where we're chasing this general named Gregorov while Mara and her goons are trying to kill him, and meanwhile we also have the cops who are trying to apprehend or kill us all. It's not just peak Syphon Filter, but peak spy thriller. These complicated situations are so much fun and make you curious to see how they'll turn out. It's not just the story context either, but the gameplay and level too. We can blast these guys away, but we need to be careful of our targets. The level, meanwhile, is a few city streets with set pieces spread around. It's a great example of Syphon Filter at its best. I could be misremembering, but I don't think PS1 games were ever this complex, and I distinctly remember it being one of the reasons I love not just Syphon Filter, but Metal Gear and Final Fantasy Tactics as well. Games that had mechanics to explore, a story to get lost in, and they took themselves seriously despite it being pretty wacky. Don't get me wrong, I love mindless fun, but there was no shortage of that back in the 90s and early 2000s. Games that, for lack of a better word, seemed grown up were harder to come by. Some people said Syphon Filter was inspired by Metal Gear Solid, but I want to mention here that that's actually not true. There's never been any evidence for it, and the dates don't line up, because IDEC would have had less than 5 months to get inspired by the game, and then make an entirely new game based on it and release it. Plus, everyone at IDEC who's ever been there has refuted this claim when asked. One of the designers was influenced by GoldenEye, which Garvin references in an interview with Sony, but funny enough, Syphon Filter has no real inspiration, as there weren't any games like it at the time. The team just wanted to make a spy game. They didn't know what it'd look like or how it'd play. The only definitives they started with was that it would be a spy action game and the name Syphon Filter, which is itself nonsense.
We had actually started working on Syphon Filter before we had ever heard of like Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear was, came out probably 4 or 5 months before we did.
So the big game that had been out before us was GoldenEye.
And obviously GoldenEye was a sort of an influence.
And super awesome game. And that was really kind of the only one.
I think that we carved out a niche that wasn't Metal Gear, wasn't James Bond, was something distinctly unique.
Which brings me to my final point on the specific topic. John Garvin is not the best writer. I think he'd be the first to tell you that. But games writing is not novel writing. John, because we're on a first-name basis now, wrote a game story that took itself seriously and treated the player like an adult. This was during a time when you simply didn't do that outside of visual novels. He doesn't get all the credit though. The game asks you to follow the story while also tying it into the gameplay. The story is not just a framing device. You must kill those enemies, but not these enemies, for specific plot reasons. The two play off one another. They need each other. Combine that with the flow of the game, it's strange but still fantastic gameplay that to this very day in 2024 now I guess, has not been replicated, as well as the amazing soundtrack, and you have lightning in a bottle. You can say the gameplay wouldn't be palatable to modern audiences, or spy thrillers aren't in vogue, sure, those are fine arguments, but you can't argue against Syphon Filter's uniqueness. It's understandable there's not a modern entry in the series, but it's still sad its legacy has been largely forgotten, because for better or worse, there's nothing else like it. Honestly, I'm just talking about this stuff as it comes to my mind, and sometimes something sparks an opinion I have, then I ramble about it and it digs up more and more. I should probably edit my thoughts better or structure a video, but I don't know. I think it's more fun this way, more genuine anyway. Which brings me to a beautiful little cap on my point, because after escaping the nightclub, we're still chasing the Russian general in Russian city streets. We're led into an alleyway just as this happens. Little set pieces bring this game to life, and I just love how it keeps you on your toes. It's straight out of a Mission Impossible or James Bond movie. This level is full of these events. Many games at this time would have the same basic mechanics for the first level, then move a couple stuff around, bring up the difficulty a tiny bit, and repeat until the game's long enough to be called complete. The best PlayStation games didn't do this. They introduced new mechanics to the players a quarter, halfway through, and towards the end of the game. The experience was fresh the entire way through. Syphon Filter is of course one example, but you can see this in Ape Escape and Castlevania too. Of course you get new tools to play around with, but these tools also affect how you interact with the gameplay. In turn, the game demands more from you. This demanding more from you is what modern games are so often missing. Intentionally so, as developers want games to appeal to the broadest group of people possible. If the first hour of a game is almost indistinguishable from the last, Then you're not playing a video game, you're just consuming content. Content is different from an experience, but that's another rant for another day. We corner Gregorov, the Russian general, in a nearby park, but we need him alive. Unlike previous enemies who we've killed, snuck, or run past, we need to tase Gregorov, but we only have this crappy close-range taser. Well, the game has a lighting and detection system, and they play off each other, so you can hide in the darkness. Now, it's no Splinter Cell, but it is there, so if you shoot out the lights, he has a much harder time seeing and hitting you. Or we think it's Gregorov until this happens.
Leon, are you there?
Gabe, where have you been? Are you all right?
We're fine.
We may lose the deductible on our rental, though.
I'm in the park, at the Cossack statue. I've got Gregorov.
On the way.
Gabe, I know why Gregorov's been acting so strange.
Why's that?
Miss Lianzing, I'm Vladimir Nedobry of the SVR. I'm afraid you must come with us.
But this isn't who you think it is. This isn't Yuri Gregorov. He's an imposter.
Yes, we know.
The real Gregorov is being held in a gulag in Siberia. He's scheduled for execution tomorrow, so we have a stealth mission with a time limit. The level starts with an hour to spare, which is somewhat of a cop-out, as he's being taken to be executed ahead of schedule. We flip the power, and it's go time.
Идите посмотрите, что случилось с электричеством.
Там заваруха! Сваливать надо!
One of my favorite tracks in the game plays, and stealth is off.
Running on emergency power now, and the execution is stalled. But a riot's broken out.
Good. Perfect cover to get Gregorov out of there. Sounds like you're under fire.
I'm all right.
This level is one of the best. The circumstances lend itself to a really fun sense of urgency and excitement, and the level is a prison. But we're running inside, outside, in the sewers, there's just a ton of variety. We bust out Gregorov, and I run into a pretty hilarious glitch. Like the Moscow level, the prison escape is just fantastic. SF2 has very, very few mediocre levels, and even that's as bad as it gets. All these levels feel so alive, with multiple factions fighting each other, while you're stuck in the thick of it, trying to accomplish some objective or just get out alive. It does action set pieces better than a lot of action movies. They remind me of the best Call of Duty levels, memorable set pieces that are so much fun to play and have you dying to see how you'll get out of the situation. The game, of course, isn't just go go go. It takes moments to breathe and invoke intrigue, but when it hits the gas, you can't look away. Now with Gregorov safe, we head back to the safe house. Leon's out of commission as the virus progresses, and we're running out of time. Logan calls Stevens, the head of the agency, to strike a deal. Not only do the data disks in Logan's possession contain the Syphon Filter information, but also the identities of everyone at the agency. Fagan, the Farcom CEO who died earlier in the game, well, he made copies as a backup when he was dealing with the last head of the agency. Logan threatens to make this information public in a great character moment.
But I know that you are a loyal agent who wants to do the right thing for your country. You're not going to do anything that will jeopardize national security.
Wrong, Stevens. What I am is a tired, angry fugitive whose partner is dying. Don't try me.
What do you want?
An even trade. Leon's vaccine for the discs.
Logan sets up a trade with the agency, the data disks for the Syphon Filter cure. He'll use himself as collateral, while his team administers the cure to Leon. If she's cured, he'll hand over the discs. Logan knows the agency will try to screw this up, so he's going on to steal the cure himself. There's a tender character moment here, and I want to give some more props, as the game could have easily turned this into a bad love story.
There is nothing more we can do for her until we have the vaccine. Time is running out, I'm afraid.
You two have been through a lot together. I can tell you feel something for her.
But they didn't. Leon is never presented as a love interest. She's treated strictly as a friend and spy partner to Logan, which is refreshing. They could have diminished her character by making her a princess that needs to be rescued, but they didn't. She saves Logan's ass a few times throughout the series, and Logan hers.
Logan.
Stevens.
This is Dr. Weisinger, our chief medical officer and biologist. She will be preparing the vaccine.
You'll never see the vaccine, but let me show you how to give an injection. First, you immobilize the arm, and
You'll
then
never
inject.
find her, Stevens.
Just as he predicted, the agency betrays Logan within 2 seconds of meeting him. He sneaks in a poison via a hollow tooth. Hold your breath, bite it to release the gas, which when mixed with oxygen creates a poisonous gas, then you exhale it into someone's face. So we grab the doctor's clothes and begin our infiltration. As long as you don't get too close to anyone, they won't see through the disguise. And if you needed even more proof that the agency are bad dudes, well, they're experimenting on living people. We also find our squad from the Colorado mountains. A few of them are alive and are being experimented on, including Chance.
What the hell kind of place is this, Gabe?
There's no time. I have a chopper outside a half-mile away. Here are its coordinates. Take this and get to the security room and free Ramirez. Get up to the street any way you can and wait for me at the chopper.
Thanks, Logan. You saved my ass again.
Just move.
We also take the cure from Weisinger, the female scientist in charge of Syphon Filter's development. She escapes, but we have the cure. We also get our equipment back, which is good because the agency is now sending in the death squad.
These guys are wearing full armor. I can't hit them.
That's bad.
These guys are bulletproof, but they can be killed with the grenade launcher. We avoid them and escape the facility and out into the New York City streets. Stevens, of course, is pissed, and it's very satisfying.
I want this place shut down. Do not, I repeat, do not let Logan out of here.
Logan will be stopped, even if I have to do it myself.
While we can kill the agency operatives, we can't harm the cops. They've been lied to and told we're a terrorist. This is a neat level that has you running around some empty city streets. I think because it's a slum section of New York, plus at nighttime and raining, I guess the implication is that it's deserted.
Teresa, we're the...
Drop your gun, Logan. You don't want to see an innocent cop's brain splattered all over the walls, do you?
Stevens.
Now.
Don't do it. He's gonna kill me anyway.
So now we murder innocent police officers?
You should have listened to her, Logan.
Teresa meets up with us in the sewers to help us escape. Looks like we couldn't escape this game without a sewer level. I swear these things must have been mandatory by Sony if you wanted to make a game for their system. Anyway, we escape and make our way to a parking garage. Stevens is there to meet us. At this point, I feel like we're bullying this poor boomer. We take out the rest of his men. As Teresa chases him down with an automatic shotgun. Hilariously, he finally surrenders until we take out the knife, our shitty knife from the very start of the game, and finish him.
You're too late. The vaccine, she's dead.
You're wrong, Stevens. I have the vaccine. I've saved my partner, and you're just another dead agent.
Well, that's it. The end of the agency.
Somehow I doubt it. Come on, let's get this vaccine to Leon.
If you haven't played Syphon Filter 2 and want to experience the full story for yourself, turn off this video now. I don't want to spoil something huge that's about to happen. You can beat the game in about 2 or 3 sittings, and it's what I'd recommend you do if this has been at all interesting to you. Alright, so with the spoiler warning out of the way, we head up to the chopper for an evac just as this happens.
What the hell? Who started the chopper? Gene, look out!
Teresa!
I'm wearing full body armor, Gabe. You can't hurt me.
Chance.
You don't sound surprised.
I'm not. All the time in Colorado, the agency seemed to know what I was doing before I did. Our route down the mountain, my direction on the highway, the train, and the labs. You were dressed in a hospital gown so they could lock me up with you in case the drugs didn't work.
No secrets from old friends.
When the transport plane arrived, I set you up to secure it, and Leon got captured. You turned her over to them.
I told him where she was and secured the test subject for transport. Just doing my job, Logan. That's all. My job.
Your job? Men under your command trusted you with their lives.
I eliminated expendable targets in the line of duty as per my orders.
I know the rhetoric. It doesn't change what you are.
What we are, Logan. How many men did you kill to get here? All of them, they were just doing their job. Did they deserve to die? I'm just doing what I was trained to do.
Yeah? So am I. Enough of this. Get that out of my face. Ugh.
Let's dance!
What an awesome moment. Chance, one of the first named characters we meet, was a double agent the entire time. It's a spy game, of course someone's a double agent, but I just never thought of it. You wouldn't think a dumb action game would have such a cool and sensible twist up its sleeve, but here we are. In my opinion, this twist brings the game's story up from good to great. Chance is fully armored, and even the grenade launcher won't kill him. But it does push him back a bit, as does the automatic shotgun we got off from Teresa's body. With these, we can push Chance's betraying ass into our helicopter blades, and Indiana Jones this loser. But it's a hollow victory, as Teresa is dead, died helping us when she didn't even need to.
Teresa, I'm sorry.
We make the agency's existence known to the American public, as the politicians scramble to figure out what they are and how they've been operating outside the usual chain of command. Suffice to say, there's a lot of egg on the American government's face right now. While the agency has been acting without the knowledge of the Department of Defense and larger political apparatus, the fact that an agency could have so many secrets is, well, it's cause for huge concern. On the plus side, our names have been cleared, and Logan and Leon are no longer wanted. Leon makes a full recovery, while Logan gives her a Solid Snake-esque speech about doing what's right.
She gave her life for mine. How can I live with that?
The same way I will. By surviving. By not giving up. By fighting for what you believe in. It's not over yet.
It's a little undercut by the soundtrack that kicks in. But whatever, it's still cool. And we finally have rolling credits, ending the story of SF2. Or so we thought. A post-credit scene shows the Secretary of State leaving a helicopter with Mara Aramov as they vaguely discuss plans for a sequel.
We will finish this operation another day.
When the administration falls, as the Secretary of State, you will become president. We could have ended it here.
Perhaps, but I am not finished with him yet. I have something else in mind for Gabriel Logan.
Mara laughs as the scene fades to black. I said everything I wanted to say in this video, so I'll keep this brief. Syphon Filter 2 is almost the perfect sequel. It takes much of what worked in the first game and improves on it, while disregarding much of what didn't. Though not everything, which I think keeps it from being perfect. But we still have the online multiplayer focused game to talk about, the 2 PSP games, and Syphon Filter 3, which many consider to be the worst of the series. How did this series go from the top to the bottom in just one game? Well, I'm already working on a retrospective for Syphon Filter 3, so we'll find out. Thank you so much for watching. I have a Discord where I sometimes stream, chat, and play games with another retro YouTuber, and we have a podcast where we talk about these games, so check all that out in the video's description. Please consider subscribing if you made it this far, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, bye.
Syphon Filter is killing me and I am running out of patience.